You are going to die. I am going to die. Every single person watching this video right now is going to die. Your mother is going to die. Your father is going to die. Your best friend, your partner, your children, the stranger sitting next to you on the bus, the barista who made your coffee this morning, the president, the billionaire, the homeless man on the corner. Every single one of them is going to die. No exceptions. No negotiations. No amount of money, power, fame, or prayer can change this. It is the one appointment that every human being will keep, whether they want to or not. Now, I know what you are thinking. Why would I start a video like that? Why would anyone want to listen to someone talk about death? That is depressing. That is dark. That is the last thing I need to hear right now. But I want you to stay with me, because what I am about to share with you is not depressing at all. In fact, it might be the most liberating thing you have ever heard. Because the Buddha, over 2,500 years ago, looked at this truth, this unavoidable, uncomfortable, terrifying truth, and he did not run from it. He did not cover his eyes. He did not change the subject. He looked directly at it, the way you look at the sun during an eclipse, with both fear and awe, and he saw something that most people miss entirely. He saw that death is not the enemy of life. Death is the teacher of life. Death is the thing that makes life precious. Death is the alarm clock that wakes you up from the sleepwalk. You have been calling your daily routine, and the moment you truly understand that you are going to die, not as an abstract concept, but as a real, physical, undeniable fact about your body and your breath and your heartbeat, everything changes. The petty arguments stop mattering. The grudges start feeling ridiculous. The things you have been putting off suddenly become urgent. And the things you have been chasing, the money, the status, the approval, the stuff, suddenly feel very, very light compared to the weight of a single genuine moment of being alive. But here is the problem. We all know we are going to die. Every single person on earth knows this. It is not a secret. It is not new information. A 5-year-old knows it. And yet almost nobody lives like it is true. We live as if we have unlimited time. We waste entire days on things that don't matter. We spend years in jobs we hate, relationships that drain us, arguments that accomplish nothing. We scroll through our phones for hours. While the sunset is happening right outside our window, we say, "I'll do it tomorrow," as if tomorrow is a guarantee, as if it comes with a receipt and a warranty and a promise that it will show up on time. And then one day, without warning, someone we love is gone. Or we get a phone call from a doctor. Or we wake up and realize that 20 years have passed, and we can't remember where they went. And in that moment, in that terrible, crystal clear moment, we finally understand what the Buddha was trying to tell us all along. Time is not unlimited. It never was. And every second you spend worrying about things that don't matter is a second you will never get back. Think about your phone. When your battery is at 100%, how do you use it? Carelessly. You watch random videos. You scroll through social media. You leave apps running in the background. You don't think about the battery at all because it feels like it will last forever. But what happens when your battery hits 5%? Everything changes. You close all the unnecessary apps. You turn down the brightness. You stop wasting power on things that don't matter. You use those last precious minutes for the one thing that is actually important. The call you need to make, the message you need to send, the thing that really matters. Your life is that phone, and you do not know what percentage your battery is at. It might be at 90. It might be at 50. It might be at 5. You have no idea. Nobody does. And the Buddha said that is not a reason to panic. That is a reason to wake up. That is a reason to stop wasting your battery on things that will never matter and start using it for the things that will. There is a story about a man who was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He was told he had 6 months to live, and something remarkable happened. He said that in those 6 months, he saw more beauty than he had seen in 50 years. The sky looked different. Food tasted different. His wife's face, a face he had seen every day for decades, suddenly looked like the most extraordinary thing he had ever seen. He laughed more. He forgave everyone who had ever hurt him. He called old friends he hadn't spoken to in years. He stopped caring about what people thought of him. He stopped worrying about money. He stopped arguing about politics. He did all the things he had always wanted to do and said all the things he had always wanted to say. And then against all odds, he survived. The illness went into remission. He was going to live. And do you know what he said? He said the diagnosis was the best thing that ever happened to him. Not the survival, the diagnosis. because the diagnosis woke him up. It showed him that he had been sleepwalking through the most precious gift anyone can receive, the gift of being alive. You do not need a diagnosis to wake up. You just need to remember what you already know. You are going to die. Not someday in the far, far future. You are going to die. And between now and then, you have a choice. You can spend your remaining time worrying, stressing, comparing, complaining, and holding on to things that will never make you happy. Or you can put all of that down, look around at the world you are standing in, and actually live. The Buddha said this is the most important choice a human being can make. And he did not just say stop worrying. He said here is how to live instead. That is what we are going to explore together. Not just why you should stop being afraid, but what to do with your life once the fear is gone. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you had an honest conversation about death? Not a funeral, where death is dressed up in flowers and formality, and everyone says the right things and goes home. I mean a real conversation. The kind where you sit across from someone and say, we are both going to die someday, and I don't know when, and that scares me. When was the last time you had that conversation? For most people, the answer is never. And that is not an accident. Our entire culture is designed to keep death out of sight and out of mind. We have built a world where dying happens behind closed doors. People die in hospitals surrounded by machines and monitors, not at home surrounded by family. The body is taken away quickly, handled by professionals, prepared behind a curtain. The funeral lasts an hour. The burial or cremation happens fast. And then everyone goes back to work on Monday as if nothing happened. As if the biggest, most profound event in human existence is just a minor interruption in the weekly schedule. We don't talk about death at dinner. We don't mention it at parties. If someone brings it up, the room gets uncomfortable. People change the subject. They make a nervous joke. They say things like, let's not talk about that, or don't be so morbid. Death is treated like a social mistake, like burping at the table or wearing the wrong outfit. It is the elephant in the room, the biggest elephant there is, standing right in the middle of everything, and everyone is pretending they can't see it. Think about how strange that is. Death is the one thing that is absolutely guaranteed to happen to every person in this room, every person in this city, every person on this planet. It is more certain than taxes. It is more certain than the sunrise, because the sun will eventually burn out too. And yet, it is the one thing we refuse to discuss. We talk about everything else. We talk about our jobs, our relationships, our diets, our exercise routines, our vacation plans, our investment portfolios. But the one event that will render all of those things completely irrelevant? Silence. Why? Why do we avoid the one truth that could transform the way we live? I think the real reason is not that death itself is frightening. I think the real reason is that death threatens everything we have built. Think about it. You have spent your entire life constructing something, a career, a reputation, a home, a family, an identity. You have poured years of effort and energy and sweat and tears into building this structure called my life. And death says none of it comes with you. All of it stays here. Every brick you laid, every wall you built, every room you decorated, it all stays behind when you walk out the door. And that feels unbearable. Not because death is cruel, but because we have invested so heavily in things that are temporary and convinced ourselves they are permanent. We have built our house on sand and then gotten angry at the tide for coming in. The Buddha lived in a time when death was not hidden. People died at home. Children saw death. Bodies were cremated in the open. Death was part of the daily landscape, not something tucked away in a hospital wing with restricted visiting hours. And yet, even in that world, people avoided thinking about it. Even in a world where death was visible every day, human beings still managed to pretend it wasn't going to happen to them. The Buddha saw this and he said something radical. He told his students to think about death every single day, not once a year at a funeral. Every day. He taught a practice called Maranasati, which means mindfulness of death, awareness of death, remembering death. And before you think that sounds like the most depressing meditation practice ever invented, let me tell you what it actually does. When you remember that you are going to die, really remember it, not as a concept, but as a feeling in your body. The small stuff falls away. The argument you had with your coworker this morning, meaningless. The rude comment someone left on your social media post, who cares? The fact that your neighbor has a nicer car than you, irrelevant. The promotion you didn't get, the invitation you weren't included in, the person who didn't text you back, None of it matters. None of it has ever mattered. You were just too distracted by the noise of daily life to see how small it all was. And the big stuff? The big stuff suddenly becomes crystal clear. The people you love, the words you haven't said, the dreams you have been putting off, the life you have been meaning to start living, but keep postponing because you think there is always more time. Suddenly, those things are screaming at you. Not tomorrow. Not next year. No. Do it now. Say it now. Live it now. Because you do not know if there will be a later. Think about something that frightens you. Not death. Something else. Maybe it is public speaking. Maybe it is asking someone on a date. Maybe it is starting a new business. Maybe it is having a difficult conversation. Whatever it is, it feels scary, right? Your palms sweat. Your stomach churns. Your mind says, what if it goes wrong? Now think about death. Think about the fact that in 100 years, nobody in that audience will be alive. Nobody you could possibly ask on a date will be alive. No business will matter in its current form. No difficult conversation will be remembered. Everything you are afraid of is temporary. Everything. And the thing you are most afraid of, death itself, is going to happen. Regardless of whether you give the speech, or ask the question, or start the business, or have the conversation. So what exactly are you afraid of? The Buddha would smile at that question. Because the answer is, you are afraid of a shadow. You are standing in a dark room, terrified of the shape in the corner, and death is the light switch. Turn it on. Look at the shadow clearly. See it for what it is. And then walk past it and go live your life. Because the shadow was never the problem. The darkness was the problem. And the darkness was always your choice. Now let us talk about the thing that eats most of your day, most of your energy, and most of your happiness. The thing that keeps you up at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling. The thing that sits on your chest like a weight you can't lift. The thing that follows you everywhere. To work, to dinner, to bed, even into your dreams. Worry, anxiety. The constant grinding, never-ending hum of what if? What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my marriage falls apart? What if my kids don't turn out okay? What if I run out of money? What if I made the wrong decision? What if everyone finds out I don't know what I'm doing? What if something terrible happens tomorrow, next week, next year? Your mind is a machine that manufactures fear. That is its job. It evolved over millions of years to keep you alive by scanning for threats. And it is very, very good at its job. The problem is, it doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an imaginary one. A tiger walking through your front door and a thought about losing your job trigger the exact same alarm system. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your breathing gets shallow. Your body prepares to fight or run, except there is nothing to fight and nowhere to run because the threat is inside your own head. You are running from a movie your own mind is playing. Here is something I want you to really hear. Studies have shown that approximately 85 to 90% of the things people worry about never happen. Let me say that again. Almost everything you worry about will never come true. You are spending your limited, precious, irreplaceable life, energy on problems that do not exist, that have never existed, and that will never exist. You are burning your house down to stay warm. Think about 1 year ago. What were you worried about? Can you even remember? Most people can't. The thing that consumed your thoughts, stole your sleep, ruined your appetite, made you snap at the people you love, that thing is gone now. It passed. It either resolved itself or it turned out to be nothing, or you dealt with it and moved on. Either way, it is over. In all those hours you spent worrying about it, wasted, gone. You can't get them back. The worry didn't help. It didn't prevent anything. It didn't solve anything. It just ate your time and your joy and your peace of mind, and then it left, like a parasite that sucked you dry and moved on to the next host. Now think about 5 years ago. 10 years ago, all those sleepless nights, all those knots in your stomach, all those imaginary catastrophes that you were absolutely certain were going to happen. Where are they now? Gone. Every single one. Like fog that burned off in the morning sun. You survived them all, not because you worried your way through them, but because that is what happens. Things pass. Life moves on. The river keeps flowing, and the rocks that looked so terrifying from upstream turn out to be pebbles when you actually reach them. The Buddha understood this perfectly, and he used a very powerful image to explain it. He talked about 2 arrows. The first arrow is the actual event. Something bad happens. You get sick. You lose money. Someone says something hurtful to you. A relationship ends. These things are real. They hurt. And the Buddha never pretended otherwise. He never said that life is painless. He said life includes pain. That is the first arrow. And sometimes, no matter what you do, the first arrow hits you. You can't always dodge it. That is part of being alive. But then comes the second arrow. And the second arrow is the one you shoot at yourself. The second arrow is the worry, the panic, the catastrophizing, the self-blame, the spiraling, the what-ifs, the if-onlys, the story you tell yourself about how this is the worst thing that has ever happened, and it is never going to get better. And your life is ruined and nothing will ever be the same. The first arrow causes pain. The second arrow causes suffering. And the difference between the two is enormous. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering is optional. Let me give you an example. You lose your job. That is the first arrow. It hurts. It is scary. It is real. But then the second arrow comes flying. What if I never find another job? What if I lose my house? What if my spouse leaves me? What if people think I'm a failure? What if this is the beginning of the end? Within minutes, you have gone from one real problem, losing your job, to 100 imaginary problems, none of which have happened, most of which never will. The job loss was one arrow. The worry turned it into 100. Or here is another example. You feel a pain in your body. That is the first arrow. It is a sensation. It is real. But then the second arrow hits. What if it is cancer? What if I'm dying? Why didn't I go to the doctor sooner? I knew something was wrong. This is it. This is how it ends. By the time you actually see a doctor who tells you it is a pulled muscle, you have already lived through your own death a dozen times in your head. You suffered more from the worry than you ever suffered from the pain. The Buddha said you cannot always avoid the first arrow. Bad things will happen. That is the nature of life. But you can learn to not shoot the second one. You can learn to feel the pain of the first arrow without piling a mountain of imaginary suffering on top of it. You can learn to say, this hurts, and leave it at that. Without the story, without the projection, without the catastrophe. Think of it like this. Imagine you are standing in the rain. The rain is the first arrow. It is real. You are getting wet. Now you have two choices. You can stand in the rain and say, I am wet, and this is uncomfortable, and keep walking. Or you can stand in the rain and say, why is it raining on me? This always happens to me. What if it never stops? What if I get sick? Why didn't I bring an umbrella? I'm so stupid. This is the worst day of my life. Same rain, completely different experience. The rain doesn't care about your story. The rain is just rain. It falls. It stops. It falls again. That is what rain does, and that is what life does. Things happen. They are sometimes painful, and then they pass. Your job is not to stop the rain. Your job is to stop drowning yourself in stories about the rain while you are standing in it. The Buddha also compared worry to a man who gets shot by a poison arrow, and instead of pulling the arrow out, starts asking questions. Who shot this arrow? What kind of wood is it made from? What type of feathers are on the end? Where was the archer standing? Was he tall or short? While this man is asking his useless questions, the poison is spreading through his body. He is dying, not from the arrow, but from his refusal to deal with the actual problem in front of him. That is what worry does. It keeps you asking useless questions about problems that may never come, while the real life in front of you is slipping away unnoticed. Unlived, wasted on fear. The Buddha did not just say stop worrying and leave it at that. He knew that would be like telling someone who is drowning to just swim. Useless advice unless you show them how. So he taught something much more practical and much more powerful. He taught people how to look at death clearly, directly, without flinching, and to use that clear vision as a tool for living a better life. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a practice called maranasati. It simply means remembering death. The Buddha told his students to begin each day by reminding themselves of a simple fact. I am of the nature to die. Death is unavoidable. I will be separated from everything and everyone I hold dear. This is certain. This cannot be escaped. Now, your first reaction to that might be, that is the most depressing morning routine I have ever heard. Who wants to wake up and think about dying before they have even had their coffee? But here is what happens when you actually do it. When you sit with the reality of death, not once a year at a funeral, but every day, the way you brush your teeth or check the weather, something shifts inside you. The unimportant things get quieter. The important things get louder. The noise of daily life, the gossip, The drama, the petty competitions, the social media circus, all of it fades into the background. And what comes forward, what rises to the surface is everything that actually matters. Think about a sand timer. The sand is falling. Grain by grain, it is moving from the top to the bottom. You can't stop it. You can't slow it down. You can't add more sand. You can only watch it fall and decide how you want to use the sand that is left. Now, most people don't look at the sand timer. They put it in a drawer and forget about it. They live as if the sand is infinite, as if the top half will never run out. And because they believe they have unlimited time, they waste it. They waste it on things that don't matter. They waste it on arguments they won't remember in a week. They waste it on revenge that poisons their own heart. They waste it on accumulating stuff that will end up in a landfill or a garage sale. They waste it on trying to impress people who don't care about them. But the person who looks at the sand timer, the person who watches the sand fall and understands that every grain is precious and unreplaceable, that person lives differently. That person doesn't waste sand on grudges. That person doesn't waste sand on worry. That person takes every grain and uses it for something real, something meaningful, something that matters. Think about the last day of a vacation. It is always the best day, isn't it? On the last day, everything is more vivid. The food tastes better. The sunset is more beautiful. The conversation is deeper. The laughter is louder. Why? Because you know it is ending. The end is right there, close enough to touch, and suddenly every moment has weight. Every moment matters. You don't waste the last day of vacation scrolling through your phone or arguing about where to eat. You soak in every second because you know there won't be more. But here is the thing that the Buddha was trying to tell us. Every day is the last day of some vacation you didn't know you were on. Every moment is the last time something will happen exactly this way. The conversation you are having right now with the person next to you will never happen again in exactly the same way. This particular arrangement of light and air and sound and feeling will never repeat itself. You are always on the last day. You just don't know it. The Buddha went even deeper than this. He said that death is not just something that happens at the end of your life. Death is happening right now, in this moment. The person you were when you started listening to this video is already gone. That version of you existed for a few minutes, and then it died, replaced by a slightly different version, one that has heard new words, had new thoughts, felt new feelings. You are dying and being reborn constantly, moment by moment, breath by breath. The cells in your body are dying right now, millions of them, and millions more are being born to replace them. The thought you had 10 seconds ago is dead. The emotion you felt 5 minutes ago has passed. The version of you that woke up this morning no longer exists. You have changed since then. You have eaten, moved, thought, experienced. You are a different person than you were at breakfast. This is what the Buddha meant by impermanence. Not just that big things end, that people die, and empires fall and mountains erode, but that everything, every tiny thing is ending and beginning in every single moment. Life and death are not opposites. They are partners. They dance together, one step after another, in every second of every day. You are living and dying at the same time, right now, as you listen to these words. And when you see this, when you really see it, death stops being the enemy. Death becomes the rhythm, the heartbeat of existence, the rising and falling of waves, the inhaling and exhaling of breath. Death is not the end of the music. Death is the silence between the notes that makes the music possible. Without endings, nothing has meaning. A song that never ends is not a song. It is noise. A movie that never ends is not a movie. It is a screen. A conversation that never ends is not a conversation. It is a drone. It is the ending that creates the beauty. It is the limit that creates the value. It is death that makes life worth living. So when the Buddha told his students to remember death every morning, he was not trying to make them sad. He was trying to make them awake. Awake to the fact that this day is a gift. Awake to the fact that the person sitting across from them at breakfast will not be there forever. Awake to the fact that the body they walk around in is a temporary home. Awake to the fact that every second is a grain of sand falling through the timer, and once it is gone forever. That awareness does not lead to despair. It leads to clarity. It leads to focus. It leads to a life where you stop wasting time on things that don't matter and start pouring yourself into the things that do. There is something that happens in hospitals, in nursing homes, in hospice centers, in the quiet rooms, where people spend their last days that the rest of the world rarely hears about. People talk. When death is close, when the pretending is over, when there is no more time for masks and games and social niceties, people finally say what is true. And what they say is remarkably, heartbreakingly similar. Nurses and caregivers who have spent years with dying, patients have documented this. The same regrets come up again and again. Different people, different backgrounds, different countries, different religions, but the same regrets over and over and over. And not a single one of those regrets is about money. Nobody on their deathbed says, I wish I had worked more overtime. Nobody says, I wish I had bought a bigger house. Nobody says, I wish I had spent more time at the office. Nobody says, I wish I had gotten more followers on social media. Nobody says, I wish I had won that argument with my neighbor about the fence. Do you know what they say? They say, I wish I had lived a life that was true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Think about that. Think about how many people spend their entire lives living someone else's script. Their parents wanted them to be a doctor, so they became a doctor even though they wanted to paint. Their culture told them to get married by 25, so they got married by 25, even though they weren't ready. Their friends all bought houses, so they bought a house, even though they would rather travel. Their boss expected them to be available around the clock, so they were available around the clock, even though their family was falling apart. They lived for approval. They lived for expectations. They lived for the imaginary audience in their head that was always watching, always judging, always grading their performance. And at the end, when that audience is gone, when the applause has stopped, when the curtain is closing, they look back and realize they spent their whole life on stage, performing a role that was written by someone else. The Buddha understood this deeply. He was a prince. His entire life was scripted for him. He was supposed to become a king. He was supposed to rule a kingdom, lead an army, produce heirs, maintain the dynasty. His father went to extraordinary lengths to make sure the young prince would stay in the palace and follow the plan. He surrounded him with luxury. He hid suffering from him. He built a golden cage and called it a life. And the Buddha walked out? He walked out of the palace, out of the plan, out of the role that everyone expected him to play, not because he didn't care about his family, not because he was selfish, but because he knew with a certainty that burned in his chest, like a fire, that the life he was living was not his own. And he would rather sit under a tree with nothing than sit on a throne with everything, if the throne was not where he belonged. You don't have to leave your family or give up your career to live authentically. That is not the point. The point is this: are you living the life you chose or the life that was chosen for you? Are you making decisions based on what matters to you or based on what you think other people want? Because at the end, those other people will not be there. You will be alone with your choices. And the question will not be, what did they think of me? The question will be, did I live? The second regret that dying people express again and again is this: I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Not, I wish I hadn't worked. Working is good. Purpose is important. Contributing to something larger than yourself gives life meaning. But working so hard that your children grew up without you? Working so hard that your marriage became a roommate arrangement? Working so hard that you forgot what your hobbies were, what your friends' voices sounded like, what it felt like to do absolutely nothing on a Saturday afternoon? The Buddha had something to say about this too. He watched people fill every hour of every day with activity, with busyness, with doing. And he recognized it for what it often is: a distraction. Not always. Sometimes work is genuine and purposeful and fulfilling, but often busyness is just a way of avoiding the silence. Because in the silence, you might have to face the questions. You have been running from vikima. Am I happy? Am I living the way I want to live? Am I spending my time on the right things? The Buddha didn't find enlightenment by running around. He found it by sitting still, under a tree, doing nothing, just being, just looking at what was actually there, instead of running to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And what he found in that stillness was more valuable than anything the world of doing had ever offered him. The third regret is one that breaks my heart every time I hear it. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. How many people die with the words "I love you" stuck in their throat? How many people go to their grave carrying resentments they never voiced, apologies they never made, gratitude they never expressed? How many fathers never told their sons they were proud of them? How many friends drifted apart because neither one wanted to be the first to call? How many couples spent decades side by side without ever saying the thing that was sitting right there in the room between them? The Buddha taught about right speech, samavaka. And part of right speech is having the courage to say what is true, not to be cruel, not to dump your emotions on someone without care, but to be honest, to say I love you when you feel it, to say I'm sorry when you mean it, to say thank you before it is too late, to say I miss you before the distance becomes permanent. Because here is what death teaches you. You will not always have the chance to say these things. The person you are thinking about right now, the one you should call, the one you should forgive, the one you should thank, they will not be here forever, and neither will you. And the words you are saving for later may never be spoken. The fourth regret is equally painful. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. The Buddha said something that surprises many people. He said that good friendship is not half of the spiritual life. It is the entire spiritual life. He used the word kalyana mita, which means spiritual friend, noble companion. And he said that having people in your life who are honest with you, who support you, who walk beside you is not just nice to have. It is everything. But friendships take time. They take effort. They take showing up. And when life gets busy, which it always does, friends are usually the first thing we sacrifice. We say, I should really call them. I should really visit. We should really get together. And then we don't. And weeks become months and months, become years and years, become decades. And one day you realize that the people who once knew you better than anyone are now strangers. Not because you stopped caring, because you stopped showing up. Death has a way of making you realize that the people around you are the whole point. Not the house, not the car, not the career, the people. The laughing and the talking and the sitting in comfortable silence. And the knowing that someone in this world understands you. That is the treasure. And it is the one treasure that almost everyone neglects until it is too late to recover. The fifth regret is perhaps the simplest and the saddest. I wish I had let myself be happier. Not I wish I had been happier. I wish I had let myself be happier. Do you hear the difference? It means the happiness was there. It was available. It was within reach. But something stopped them from taking it. Fear, guilt, habit. The belief that happiness is something you have to earn, something you have to deserve, something that will be taken away if you enjoy it too much. So many people live their lives with one foot on the brake. Good things happen and they think, this can't last. They feel joy and they think, something bad must be coming. They laugh and then immediately look over their shoulder, waiting for the punishment. They have been trained by life, by culture, by pain, to distrust happiness, to treat it as a trick, to keep their guard up even when there is nothing to guard against. The Buddha's teaching on this is radical in its simplicity. Happiness is your birthright, not the happiness that comes from getting what you want. That kind of happiness is temporary and unreliable. But the happiness that comes from being present, from being grateful, from being alive, that happiness is available to you right now in this moment, without changing a single thing about your life. You just have to let yourself have it. Every one of these regrets has the same root, the belief that there is more time, the assumption that later will come, the fantasy that you can always do it tomorrow. And death standing quietly at the end of the road says no, there is no later. There is only now. And now is passing even as I speak. So the Buddha did not just say, remember that you are going to die and then walk away. That would be like a doctor telling you that you are sick and then leaving the room without giving you any medicine. The Buddha was not interested in making people afraid. He was interested in making people free. And freedom requires more than awareness. Freedom requires a path. So what did the Buddha actually teach? What did he say we should do with this one short, unpredictable, temporary life? How did he say we should live? Knowing that every day could be our last? He said, first and above all else, live in this moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. This moment, right here, right now. He taught this in a teaching called the Bhadakarata Sutta, where he said, do not chase after the past. Do not get lost in the future. The past is already gone. The future has not yet come. Look at life as it is, right in this present moment. Now that sounds simple, almost too simple, but try it. Actually try it. Try to spend even one full minute completely in the present moment. No thinking about what happened this morning. No planning for what you have to do tonight. No worrying about next week. Just this, just now. Just the air on your skin and the sound in your ears and the weight of your body and the feeling of being alive. Most people can't do it for 10 seconds. Their mind immediately jumps to the past or the future. That is how deeply addicted we are to time travel. We are almost never where we actually are. Our bodies are here, but our minds are somewhere else, always somewhere else. Running through memories or rehearsing fantasies, or constructing worst-case scenarios that will probably never happen. And while we are lost in our heads, life is happening. Real life, the kind you can touch and taste and feel. The coffee is getting cold. The sunset is fading. The child is growing up. The friend is waiting for your call. The flowers are blooming and wilting and blooming again. And you are missing all of it because you are busy being somewhere you are not. The Buddha said that when you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. When you talk to someone, actually be there. Not half there, not mostly there, completely there, with your whole self, your whole attention, your whole heart. Think about the last meal you had. Did you taste it? Really taste it? Did you feel the texture on your tongue? Did you smell it before you took the first bite? Did you notice the colors on the plate? Or did you eat it while looking at your phone, barely aware of what was going into your mouth, chewing on autopilot, swallowing without noticing? Most of us eat 1,000 meals a year and taste maybe a dozen of them. We walk 1,000,000 steps and feel maybe 100 of them. We have countless conversations and truly listen in maybe a handful. We are ghosts haunting our own lives, floating through our days without touching anything, without being touched by anything, without really truly being here. And then we wonder why life feels empty. We wonder why, despite having so much, we feel so little. We wonder why we are surrounded by abundance and yet feel starving. It is because you can't be nourished by a meal you don't taste. You can't be moved by a sunset you don't see. You can't be loved by a person you don't listen to. Presence is the prerequisite for everything. Without it, you are just going through the motions. With it, the most ordinary moment becomes extraordinary. The second thing the Buddha taught is this: be grateful for what you have instead of chasing what you don't. This is not a greeting card platitude. This is a complete reorientation of how you see your life. Right now, in this moment, you have things that millions of people on this earth would consider miraculous. You have clean water. You turn on a faucet and it comes out. Do you know how many people walk miles every day just to get water that might make them sick? You have food. You open a refrigerator and there. It is more choices than a king had 200 years ago. You have a roof over your head. You have clothing on your body. You have eyes that can see and ears that can hear and a mind that can think and a heart that can feel. And yet most of us spend our days focused on what we don't have, the job we didn't get, the body we wish we had, the money we think we need, the life we see someone else, living on social media that looks so much better than ours. We are standing in a garden full of flowers and staring at the one weed. The Buddha said that gratitude is not something you feel after you get what you want. Gratitude is something you practice before, during, and after everything. Gratitude is looking at your life as it is, not as you wish it were, and saying, this is enough, I have enough, I am enough. That does not mean you stop trying to improve your life. It means you stop hating your life while you are improving it. It means you stop treating the present as a waiting room for the future. It means you start living now with what you have, where you are. The third thing the Buddha taught is this: stop comparing yourself to other people. Your life is your life. Their life is their life. You are walking your path. They are walking theirs. You do not know what their path feels like from the inside. You only see the surface. You see their house, but not their mortgage. You see their smile, but not their anxiety. You see their marriage, but not their loneliness. You see their success, but not their sacrifice. Comparison is looking at someone else's highlight, reel, and feeling bad about your behind-the-scenes footage. The Buddha would say it like this: imagine you are sitting at a table with a delicious meal in front of you. Everything you need is right there. But instead of eating, you keep turning around to look at the table behind you, wondering if their food is better. And while you are staring at their plate, your own food is getting cold. By the time you turn back around, the meal is ruined. Not because the food was bad, but because you were not there to eat it. Eat your own food. Walk your own path. Live your own life. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. The fourth thing the Buddha taught is this: let go of anger and forgive. There is a famous teaching where the Buddha compared holding on to anger to holding a burning coal in your hand with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one getting burned. The other person might not even know you are angry. They might have forgotten whatever they did to hurt you. They might be sleeping peacefully right now while you are lying awake, rehearsing your revenge, composing your arguments, feeding the fire that is only burning you. Think about the person you are most angry at right now. Someone who wronged you, hurt you, betrayed you. Now ask yourself this: is your anger hurting them? Are they suffering because of your resentment? Probably not. They are probably living their life, eating their dinner, watching their shows, completely unaware that you are carrying this poison inside you. The only person your anger is destroying is you. You are drinking the poison and waiting for them to die. The Buddha said, put the coal down, not for their sake, for yours. Forgiveness is not about saying what they did was okay. It is about saying, I am no longer willing to carry this weight. I am no longer willing to burn myself with someone else's fire. I am putting this down, not because they deserve it, because I deserve peace. And the fifth thing the Buddha taught is the one that ties everything together. Give. Give freely, give generously, give without expecting anything in return. The Buddha called this dana, and he considered it the very first step on the path to freedom. Not meditation, not philosophy, not renunciation. Giving. Because giving is the opposite of clinging. Giving is the antidote to the fear of losing. When you give, you are saying, I have enough. I am not afraid. I trust that the universe will take care of me because I am taking care of others. And it doesn't have to be money. It can be your time. It can be your attention. It can be a kind word to someone who is struggling. It can be holding the door for a stranger. It can be listening, really listening, when someone needs to talk. It can be a smile. A genuine, unhurried, I see you and you matter smile. The happiest people in the world are not the ones who have the most. They are the ones who give the most. Because giving breaks the cycle of craving. It breaks the illusion that you need more to be enough. It connects you to other people in a way that possessions never can. And it reminds you every single time that the best use of this short, uncertain borrowed life is not to accumulate, but to overflow. So what does a day look like when you carry all of this with you? What does it look like to live as someone who has truly heard what the Buddha was saying? Not a perfect person, not a saint, not a monk in a monastery, just an ordinary person living an ordinary life, but with their eyes open. Let me paint a picture for you. You wake up in the morning, before you check your phone, before you look at the news, before you start your mental to-do list, you lie there for a moment, just a moment, and you notice that you are breathing. Your heart is beating. You can feel the sheets on your skin. Light is coming through the window. You are alive. Another day has been given to you, not promised, given. And for that one moment, before the world rushes in with all its demands and distractions, you feel something quiet and deep in your chest. Gratitude. Not for anything specific. Just for this. Just for being here. Because there were people who went to sleep last night and did not wake up this morning. And you are not one of them. That is not nothing. That is everything. You get up. You make your coffee or your tea. And instead of drinking it while scrolling through your phone, you just drink it. You wrap your hands around the cup. You feel the warmth. You take a sip and you actually taste it. The bitterness, the richness, the way it feels going down your throat. You are not thinking about the meeting you have at 10 o'clock. You are not worrying about the bill that is due next week. You are just here in this kitchen with this cup alive. And it is good. It is really genuinely good. You leave for work. And on the way, instead of being lost in your head, you notice things. The color of the sky, the sound of birds, the way the light hits the buildings, the faces of strangers, each one of them carrying an entire universe of hopes and fears and dreams, and regrets that you will never know about. You look at them and you think, they are going to die too. Just like me. And suddenly the stranger on the street is not a stranger. They are a fellow traveler, a companion on this brief, mysterious journey. And you feel something like tenderness, something like kinship, something like love for a person whose name you will never know. You get to work, and the things that used to bother you, the annoying coworker, the pointless meeting, the email that should have been a conversation, they still happen. Life does not become perfect because you remember that you are going to die. But your reaction to these things is different. The annoying coworker says something rude, and instead of spending the next hour replaying it in your head, crafting the perfect comeback, you think, we are both going to be dead in a few decades. This does not matter, and you let it go. Not because you are a pushover, because your time is too valuable to spend on something so small. The pointless meeting drags on, and instead of seething with impatience, you look around the room and really see the people in it. That woman in the corner who always looks tired, she is probably fighting a battle you know nothing about. That man who talks too much, he is probably lonely. That young person who seems nervous, they are probably terrified of failing. Everyone in that room is carrying something. And for a moment, your irritation melts into compassion. Not because you are a saint, because you are paying attention. Someone at work does something that normally would make you furious. They take credit for your idea. They undermine you in front of others. They make a decision that affects you without asking your opinion. And the old you would have stewed for days, would have plotted revenge, would have lost sleep. But the new you, the you who remembers that both of you will be dust in 100 years, takes a breath and asks, is this worth my sand? Is this worth a single grain from my hourglass? And the answer, almost always, is no. So you deal with it calmly, or you let it go entirely, and you save your energy for something that matters. You come home, and this is where it really counts. Because the people in your home, the ones you see every day, are the ones it is easiest to take for granted. You see them so often that they become furniture. You stop noticing them. You stop listening to them. You stop looking at them. The way you did when everything was new and uncertain and thrilling. But tonight you look. You really look at your partner's face, at the way they move around the kitchen, at the sound of their laugh, the one you used to love, the one you stopped hearing somewhere along the way. And you think, this person will not be here forever. One day this kitchen will be empty. One day this laugh will be a memory. And instead of waiting for that day to appreciate what you have, you appreciate it now, right now, tonight. You sit down to eat. You taste the food. You have a real conversation. Not about logistics, not about bills, not about whose turn it is to take the kids to school. A real conversation about dreams, about fears, about the funny thing that happened last week, about nothing at all. Just the sound of two human beings connecting across a table, sharing the brief miracle of being alive at the same time in the same place. And if you have children, you put your phone down and you sit on the floor with them. You build the tower. You read the book. You answer the question for the 100th time. Not because you feel obligated, because you know that this is it. This is the stuff of life. This is what you will remember when the sand runs out. Not the promotion, not the bank balance, not the square footage of your house. The weight of a child in your lap, the sound of their voice saying your name, the warmth of their small hand in yours. Before you go to sleep, you take a moment, just a moment, and you ask yourself, did I live today? Did I taste my food? Did I listen to the people around me? Did I notice the sky? Did I waste my time on things that don't matter? Or did I spend it on things that do? Did I say what needed to be said? Did I let go of what needed to be let go of? Was I here, really here, for this one day that will never come again? You don't have to answer yes to all of those questions. You won't. Not every day. But the fact that you are asking them means you are awake. And being awake is the whole point. Being awake is the entire teaching. Being awake is all the Buddha ever asked of anyone. The Buddha's very last words, the final sentence. He spoke before he closed his eyes for the last time. Were these, all conditioned things are impermanent. Strive diligently. All conditioned things are impermanent. Everything you see, everything you own, everything you love, everything you fear, everything you are, will change and end and pass away. That is the truth. The most honest, most unavoidable, most liberating truth there is. Strive diligently. Don't waste it. Don't throw it away on worry and comparison and grudges and fear. Don't spend your one wild, precious life performing for an audience that isn't watching. Don't save all your living for retirement. And then discover that your body can't do the things your heart always wanted to. Live now. Love now. Speak now. Forgive now. Give now. Be here now. You are going to die. That is not a threat. That is a gift. Because it means that every single moment you are alive is a moment worth having. Every sunrise is a miracle. Every meal is a feast. Every conversation is an opportunity. Every breath is a second chance. Stop worrying about tomorrow. Tomorrow does not need your worry. It needs your presence when it arrives. Stop regretting yesterday. Yesterday does not need your guilt. It needs your forgiveness and your gratitude. Stop living in your head. Your head is not where your life is. Your life is here. In this room, in this body, in this breath. The Buddha looked at death and he did not blink. He looked at the end of all things and he smiled. Not because he was happy that things end, but because he understood that endings are what make beginnings possible. He understood that the falling of the leaves is what allows the growing of new ones. He understood that the setting of the sun is what makes the sunrise so unbearably beautiful. You are a candle. You were lit when you were born, and you will go out when you die. You don't know when that will be. It might be decades from now. It might be much sooner. But while you are burning, you have a choice. You can burn dimly, flickering with worry, sputtering with fear, barely giving off enough light to see by, or you can burn brightly, fully, with everything you have, lighting up the room, warming the people around you, making the darkness a little less dark for everyone who crosses your path. The Buddha chose to burn brightly, and he spent his entire life inviting you to do the same. So do it. Not tomorrow. Not when you have more money. Not when your kids are older. Not when you retire. Not when things calm down. Not when you figure it all out. Now, here, today, with whatever you have, wherever you are. However imperfect your life may be, because your life, this messy, complicated, confusing, beautiful, heartbreaking, wonderful life, is the only one you get. And it is passing right now. Right now, even as you listen to these words, don't let it pass without you in it.